Welcome to another session of Toxic Tuesday. Therapy for the people. My people. All people.
Nah, I don't want that static. I got stuff to overcome cause it's real traumatic. Yeah, I'm feeling more schematic.
I am.
Gotta flip my life around like it's acrobatic, right? I kinda like that tactic. Cause where we come from, we can't escape erratic. Nah, shooting ourselves like plastic.
Bang.
Just working on myself and I'm talking about practice. How we good with the baddest. Cause he did it for the people, never did it for batches. Word, that's the thing that matters. Now I'm serving y'all up like a truck with platters. True, this food for the fanatic. What you know about real, you too cinematic. Nah, chasing your dream, that's systematic. So even when I'm asleep, best believe I'm at it. Let's get this session started. Thank y'all for tuning in. What's up, world? It's the King Omar Sharif, and I welcome you back to another Toxic Tuesday, where we turn our bad into good situations. Toxic Tuesdays are all about you, your mind, your body, your soul. I believe if we can control those three things, we'll find happiness. Tonight on Toxic Tuesday, session number 22, rolling right along. We got something good for y'all tonight. It's going to be the question, is therapy good for you? All right, so I put together some intro questions and I have a very special guest who will be joining me tonight. And he is a licensed therapist and he is good at what he does. All right, y'all, we're about to start the show. And I have a very special guest, Elijah Irving, licensed therapist. Let's welcome him to the show, y'all. Let's go.
What's going on, family? What's going on?
Yes.
What's going on?
Pleasure having you on here.
Thank you for having me.
My very first guest, y'all. Y'all see the progress we making on Toxic Tuesday, right? I was just sitting in here by myself. Now I'm welcoming guests onto the show. It's a beautiful thing. I do also like to incorporate some wonderful juices that I make here at the house. Now, I'm always telling y'all how good the juices are. Now we can have somebody else tell y'all what he thinks about the juices, so y'all know I'm not lying in here, all right?
Straight guinea pig.
So thanks for coming, brother. Salute.
Yes,
cheers to
having
you.
me. Yep. Let's go. Ooh. So what's in this?
You heard him, right? His first reaction was, ooh. That's only pineapple. I sliced up a real pineapple, no frozen, fresh pineapple.
Okay.
And I just added 2 bottles of spring water and some honey. And it's on the money.
I'm gonna have to get some more of this.
For sure. I got some more in the picture for you, for sure. So tonight is great, y'all, because a lot of us have questions about therapy. A lot of us kind of stay away from going to therapy, right? I think a lot of us believe that nothing is wrong with us, or we can't identify why we are the way we are as adults, or, you know, when something took place in our lives where it just shifted us and we don't even realize it. But oftentimes we do go through things in our lives and we just want to open up the door tonight to kind of give the people out there who've never been to therapy an idea of what therapy is and how it goes, all right? So it's going to be an introduction, and this session is titled is Therapy for Me. Yeah, for sure. So let's start off with this. How long do therapy sessions typically last, and how often should someone attend?
So therapy sessions typically last anywhere from like 50 minutes to like an hour, give or take. So you just round it up to about an hour, all right? And as far as how long or how frequent, that typically depends on the therapist and also the client, because it's just like, okay, what are you actually coming into therapy for? Mm-hmm. And then sometimes some people have, you know, what we therapists like to call a therapeutic alliance or a therapeutic relationship with the client, right? So we try to get to know the client first, and then let's just say for a good like month or some change, just really get a good read on what they're coming in for. And typically, if you form a great therapeutic alliance with your client, it could last anywhere from like 6 months to like forever.
Okay.
Like it just depends.
No timeline on it.
Yeah, there's really no timeline on it. It really depends on whether the client needs more therapy or not. Sometimes, like I've had clients that I've seen for like every week for like a good year and a half or some change. And I'm like, okay, I think we could dial it down a little bit.
Okay.
To like every other week. And then after every other week to once a month. Like it really just depends on how the client progressed.
I was actually going to ask you that question a little later on, but since you kind of touched on it,
Sure.
I was going to ask you, how is progress measured and how do you know if therapy is working?
So what a lot of therapists typically have, we have this thing called this assessment, or I guess you call it an assessment tool, right? Which is called the treatment plan. So pretty much what it is just a list of goals, whichever the client wants to achieve, or what the therapist wants for the client, as far as what the therapist thinks the client is trying to attain for themselves.
Okay.
Right. So if these benchmarks or these goals are being met, then it's just like, okay, hey, I'm helping my client get through all these different goals. So therefore, if new ones come up, that can happen too.
Right.
But then as the client progresses as far as reaching their goals, reaching of what they want to do, right? Or let's just say obtaining healthy coping skills, right? The client, it may take the client a little while to actually get that in motion, because obviously it takes 28 days to form a habit, right? So it takes a good amount of time for someone to at least instill a positive healthy coping skill. So that could typically take a while, and then once that person has a routine built, then you can work on a second treatment goal, right? And then and then it goes down the line. And then sometimes you add more, or if they only have 3 and they worked on 3, then you're just like, okay, well, I think we're doing fine. I think you're doing fine.
Okay.
And then what we also call termination, right, is the process where sometimes where it's just like the client and the therapist are parting ways, but it's just more of it's almost like tapering yourself off of a medication.
Okay.
Or just like you see each other less, and less, and then next thing you know, you're good.
Less is best in this industry, right?
Well, depending on
the gains,
yes,
the progress.
Yeah, the progress.
That's what I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well said. Well said. Now, what do you think is the underlying cause of mental health concerns, and how do you typically address them?
So, the underlying issue of mental health concerns, I would probably say, would probably go to. Have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
I haven't. Tell me and the people watching what that is.
So, I mean, essentially, Maslow's hierarchy of needs are just your basic needs that every human being is going to need, such as emotional connection.
We need that.
Touch, physical touch.
We all need that.
Shelter, place to stay, access to food, access to a positive, clean environment, things like that, right? So if people...
The necessities of living, basically.
Right. Intellectual stimulation, things like that, right? But if you... And healthy people around you as well, a support system.
That's very important.
Right, so if you don't have those things, right, there are going to be certain things that you're going to be looking for in a negative way, or let's just say if I don't have any social connections, right, I'm just going to always be all up on my phone developing shallow relationships with people, right? Or I could go into drug and alcohol addiction because I'm looking for connection, because that's the underlying issue, is that you want connection, but you're striving through connection to the bottle or the weed or the pills.
Which is an escape of reality as well.
Right, an escape of reality, right? But that person's reality is that they don't have something. They're lacking something, and they're struggling trying to deal with not having something.
Right.
Right? And also there's a lot of shame and grief going on in the world as well. People have their problems, and they're scared to admit that they have problems, so they feel shameful for having problems. Therefore, it's going to keep them internalizing their issues and not really willing to talk about it, not willing to go to therapy. Because, and also too, they want to trust people, but it's hard to trust people,
especially people you don't know.
Especially people you don't know.
Right.
But the thing is that when as far as where therapist comes in, right? We're pretty much objective, right? We don't know you from a can of paint either. So it's just like you come to us, tell us your dark secrets, and we keep it, package it up in a luggage bag in our office, and it stays there. It doesn't go anywhere else. We don't tell anybody else. We can't.
I'm
And that
happy
goes
you.
to
I was about to ask you
Another
something
one,
like that,
okay.
Elijah. Yes. So when it comes to that, I was gonna ask you, like, how do you keep the confidentiality and everything
Right.
private for the client that is there? Because some people may feel like, well, what if you go and don't be so professional and have a conversation with your wife or with your friend or somebody in the community, and now that information may leak out. And I know this isn't something that you do, but
Right.
just a fear that somebody else may have of
Right.
sharing this information with you.
So pretty much we in the contracts, right? We'll this one page we would call like an informed consent, right? It's just like a list of terms of services that you'll receive, payment, what the payment is, everything like that when it comes to the logistics of things. When it comes to the confidentiality clause, right? Essentially what that is just that we as therapists can't divulge any information unless you give us the okay to do it. And if you give us the okay, let's just say you come into my office, right?
I probably need to, y'all, to be honest.
Let's just say you come into my office, right? And you won't go through the informed consent and everything like that, right? And there's this other paper, and you sign the informed consent, but there's this other paper called the release of information, or called the ROI for short. And on this release of information is going to be, you decide whether you want someone to know that you're in therapy or not.
Okay.
Right? So let's just say it can be your wife or something.
Oh,
right? And
okay.
then it's also tailored to specific information that you would like to have that person know. Like, for example, if you only want them to be emergency contact, right? So if you just go off the wall and I don't see you for a while, but you were an active client and I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, I can call a wifey up and be like, hey, this is Eli Irving.
There's that support group again that you mentioned.
Support, right? So I'm just like, hey, I'm looking for Omar. Have you seen him? And she's like, oh yeah, or no. Then we handle that conversation when it comes, right? But that's specific to emergency contact only. That's the only reason why I would be calling your spouse. But there are other benchmarks, or there are other check marks or boxes, right? As far as like, okay, like let's just say consultation. Let's just say you have some legal troubles, right? And you're legally stipulated to go to treatment, right? So
Forced to,
right? Legally stipulated or forced to by probation or parole, judge, anything like that, right? You would have to check that box and then write down their information on that sheet of the release of information paper, right? And then if it's just for consultation, I would pretty much just say, hey, listen, so Omar is here for therapy. He's only coming once a week on Thursdays, blah, 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 right? But that's it. I would not be able to divulge any kind of details that go on into the therapy session.
Code of honor.
Right. So there's always a selection of how much information you would like to be spoken about to anyone that you would sign on that release of information.
Nice. Well said. So I see you keep it very confidential.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right. Another question I have for you.
Go really quick before we go into it.
No problem.
Because if we don't do that, right, we can get sued.
I would imagine.
And also, I wanted to say this as well for the people out there. It's only in 2 incidences in which we would have to breach confidentiality. So it's either harm to others or harm to self. Okay? So let's just say, Omar, I'm just going to use you as an example for the people, okay? You tell me.
He's not going to tell my business when I go see him, though.
anybody.
I'm going to go see him, y'all. He better not. If y'all see him telling my business, let me know, because we're going to make some money. I'm going to give you a cut. But go ahead.
So let's just say you come into my office and you're just like, listen, I want to kill my boss. And you're just like, my boss, Leroy Brown, He's annoying. Like, I can't stand him. I just want to shoot him in the face with my 35, 357, right? And you're just like, okay, like, how serious are you trying to do this? And you're like, I'm gonna do this on next week when I go into work on Monday. Like, so you're telling me you have a plan to murder your boss.
Then you gotta let the authorities know.
Yeah, I would have to let the authorities know.
Gotcha.
Same thing when it comes to yourself. If you're just like, hey, like, obviously we would do like a suicide prevention plan, right? If you come to me with
Is that something that you come across a lot in your sessions?
Not a lot, actually.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Now, I've only had to do that potentially, like, do like a suicide prevention plan probably with only 2-3 people, maybe.
Okay.
Like a real serious one where it's
Right.
like people actually had some concurrent suicidal ideation going on.
One moment. We are promoting on Toxic Tuesday and on any channel that you ever see me on, self-love, love yourself, all right? And if you're having trouble doing that, if you don't feel your self-worth, because you are 100% worth it. The Creator made us all that way. Sometimes we just need a brighter light to shine on that so we can know it and feel it. Self-love, y'all. We got to practice that each and every day. It's so important.
Yeah, well, and we should, put the suicide prevention hotline on, towards the end of the show. We'll
Okay.
do that as well.
For sure. Beautiful. Were you going to say anything else about that before I ask another question?
I mean, it was really just like, again, if you have a plan of harming yourself, like, obviously it starts in the mind, right? You're starting to have the ideation, the suicidal ideation, right? The ideation means like the suicidal thoughts, right? And if they start to become very, very heavy, then next thing you know, you start to have, you start to think about a plan that you would have, right? Like, okay, I'm going to cut myself, I'm going to hang myself.
That's heavy thought.
Yeah. So it's just like, once you start planning those things, then it's going to go, okay, we got to
getting
take it serious,
serious
and
about
then
it.
we need to admit you to the hospital.
Yes. Well, if you're in those stages, please reach out to somebody.
Please.
We will
Please reach
share
out.
that information at the end of this show, just to make sure that everybody is aware of this help that's out here for you. All right, another question I have for you, Elijah, is going to be, what can someone expect during these sessions, and what do you do if people start to feel uncomfortable or overwhelmed?
Okay. So what happens in therapy depends on the person, first and foremost.
Is it like, is it like somebody laying on the couch like in the movies? I've never been to
No,
therapy.
no, that's Freudian. Like, that's
Okay.
that's a Sigmund Freud kind of thing, which
Okay.
is called like a free association.
So you
where
may not be
just-
on the couch, y'all.
Yeah, where you're just laying on the couch and then your therapist is sitting on the chair behind you with
Right.
his legs crossed, writing on the pad.
So it's not like the movies,
No,
huh?
it's not really like the movies. I mean, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure there are therapists that do that.
Right.
But your regular therapist is not gonna do that. We're just gonna sit face to face. Like, you're either gonna sit on the couch, you sit on the couch and you're gonna sit in the chair, or something like that. And sometimes actually, I would even go take my therapy sessions with my clients outside, and I'll walk.
Oh,
Because
nice.
Walking therapy is actually very therapeutic,
I can
and
imagine.
it's healthy as well. Because you're walking, burning some calories.
Nice.
Right? You're walking and talking.
2 for 1.
Yeah, 2 for 1.
Might have to get some therapy at the gym on the bicycle.
Hey.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, essentially, obviously, it brings into like what the client wants to talk about, right? So it's just like sometimes some people are just like willing to just go full steam ahead, right, and just only want to talk about their problems, right? And then it's just like you just want to crack open people's head like an egg, man. It's just like you just got to get in there and do it. But sometimes, a lot of times, right, as far as from my experience, right, it's a slow, delicate dance, because you want to get to know the person. You want to get to know what they like to do, right? So it's just like any therapist is just going to get it's just like talking to somebody that you
Trying to get to know.
Yeah, you're just trying to get to know them. And essentially, that's what we try to do as therapists with our clients. We try to, again, therapeutic alliance. We want to build that with someone. We try to find a common ground,
Nice.
right? It's just like obviously we're not friends in the social set, right? But we still want to form that connection. We try to get to know you, so therefore we can move forward, and so it makes you more comfortable to talk about your demons or your dark secrets, and we can handle that full on. And sometimes it depends on the person. Some people just want to just go full steam ahead and just want to talk about it, and for some people it takes a little bit.
But they may not be comfortable talking to people and just opening up so quickly. You know what I mean?
Because even though they don't know you, and but it's still just awkward, at least for a little
It has
bit.
to be.
Where it's just like you're just sitting in front of the stranger that you're supposed to be telling all your problems to.
Like me sitting in front of all of you strangers out there.
Right.
It took me a little while to get used to it, but we got there.
Yeah, and it's just going. All it takes is time. And like I said, it's a delicate dance.
Hand dance, or what kind of dance is it? Doesn't matter, huh?
Doesn't matter.
Whatever dance you
Whatever
prefer.
dance you prefer. Whatever the client prefers. That's what kind of dance it's gonna be.
Right. Another question I have for you, do you teach specific coping skills or techniques to help manage symptoms outside of therapy? So do people have things that they can practice when they're not there?
Oh, absolutely.
What would those things be? Like, give
So
us an idea.
I'm a proponent for guided meditations,
Nice.
breathing techniques,
So am
things
I.
like that. Guided meditations. I had this one experience with a client where, I did a guided meditation with him, and he started to cry because he was going through so much heavy depression and anxiety at the time that I guided him to a setting. It was like on a beach, and he was just happy, and he started to cry because it was just like right in that specific moment, he felt something other than what he's been feeling in that moment. So he felt happy for just that modicum of time, right? And sometimes that's all people need sometimes when you're going through day to day, because again, you're only seeing me once a week, right?
Right.
So, but once I teach that technique to some people, I'm like, hey, listen, like, if this is what you want to get into, you should get into it. Because if it kind of gives you a break, then that's what needs to happen when things get overwhelming, right?
When you're close to that brink.
Right. There's also things called, grounding techniques, right? Where you're just like you're sitting. It's still like a meditative practice in a sense, right? Where you're just like you're wiggling your toes. There are things like wiggle your toes and how many toes do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go to your right foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Things like that. You could also look around the room, stare at a painting. Ask yourself what's on the wall over here. Oh, it's this painting of Picasso, or what color is the wall? It's a sage green. Things like that. So it kind of keeps you in the present moment instead of in your head, because in your head, in your mental space, right, you're either in the future or the past. So anxiety lives in the future, depression lives in the past, right? Is what I always like to tell my clients as well. So it's grounding techniques, breathing techniques. Oh, there's another one that I like to do also called tapping, right? So there are pressure points throughout your whole body, and what you could do is if you tap on certain areas, and then you tell yourself like some positive affirmations, like I am good, I'm great, I am doing well in what I am doing, because we want to combat right that negative thinking, right? So you want to counteract that with positive thinking, right? So you want to tap it, kind of makes it an active exercise.
That's really tapping in.
Right. Exactly. Because you're literally doing it. You're tapping on these other spots, right?
Is it just on your head, or
no, it could be here, it could be wherever.
Okay.
It could be on your chest, it could be on your stomach, it could be on your arm, and just like it's almost like someone just poking you, and just be like reminding you, like yo, or someone pulling on your coattails, like people would, like we would, like in old schools, like how we grew up. Our old heads would say that. Pulling, yo, I'm gonna pull on your coattails, kind of thing. Kind of keep you on the right path.
That's cool.
It's the same thing.
When you say you poking yourself, I like that. Just reminding, like, hey man, you better than this.
Yeah, it's better than that poke on Facebook from back in the day, from old school Facebook days, man.
Okay,
right?
you talking about the old poke?
Yeah, old Facebook poke. It's better than that. It's more therapeutic. People out there, it's very therapeutic.
All right. Well, you kind of touched on a lot of things. Also, how about this? What kind of money do people normally need to have for these sessions? Now, are you charged per session? Is it, I believe you're a private practice.
Right.
So there's other options as well that, every therapist isn't in a private setting.
Right.
So can you talk about those differences, please?
Right. So when I first started out, right, I worked for an agency called Mid-Atlantic Rehabilitation Services.
Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're not getting in trouble, Eli.
No, hey, that's fine. That's on my resume. So
Okay.
it's like-
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that place was an agency. Okay. So sometimes that place would have funding from like medical assistants, insurance companies, things like that, right? Also, there are some private practices that do take insurance, but there's also practices that do not take health insurance. Excuse me.
All right.
So, for example, my practice, we are cash only, right? And we specialize.
So hold on, no debit, no credit, straight cash.
No, sorry, my bad.
Sound like you in a spot like, all right, yo, where my money at?
Yeah, like not cash only. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We're just like a private pay, I should say.
Okay.
So credit cards, debit cards, check, cash.
Got you.
Whichever comes out of your pocket, right?
But that just means no insurance will be involved.
Right, but
Okay.
but however, there's a little there's a trick here as well. So what you could do, what anyone can do sometimes is, what I would do is, when a client comes in, pays my the price that we agree on, right? And then let's just say they do have health insurance. What they'll do is sometimes some health insurance companies will reimburse you. So I will create like a super bill, let's just say, for like, let's just say I've been seeing you for 6 months, and then you want to see if your health insurance would be able to reimburse you for that. So what I would do is I would create like a super bill of the 6 months that we've been in session together, and then it would list the rate, what you would pay me an hour every time, and every day by the date of when you came to see me.
That would be tricky though,
Yeah,
because if the insurance company doesn't cover it after 6 months of all of these sessions,
Right, I'm just saying 6 months as far as just a
just a number.
just a
but
number.
they would have to pay you that money at some point.
right. So it's just like you can submit that for reimbursement,
Right.
and sometimes they'll do it, and sometimes they won't, unfortunately.
So how often would someone's medical insurance cover a therapy session? Is that common?
Yeah, it is pretty common.
Okay.
But sometimes the insurance company will only like pay they'll
Co-pays and stuff like that?
co-pays, and then they'll only pay like a certain percentage and
right.
stuff like that. So it gets a little dicey sometimes when it comes to insurance companies.
So check your coverage,
But yeah,
y'all.
check coverage.
Check your network. You might be covered. You might be walking and getting out of these sessions with $20. You know what I mean? So that would be nice, right?
Right.
Now, for somebody who doesn't have that insurance, what could they expect to pay? I know it's different.
It's different,
but
yeah.
From what you've experienced.
So from a lot of therapists, sometimes like if you come to me and you're just like, hey, listen, I'm not working right now. Like, sometimes that could be just it depends on the therapist. Some therapists.
So they work with people.
Yeah, they work with people.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all not trying to just like
Get
nickel
money.
and dime you and
Right.
just take your money. Like we're not in the business of doing that. A lot of
Because I would think at least from what I hear, a lot of people would say, I don't have no money for therapy. So they would never go. But in my mind, I'm thinking for some reason, not really knowing that therapy is going to cost me a lot of money. You know what I mean? Just without even knowing, that's what I'm thinking.
Right, because a lot of the times the therapists, they have what we call a sliding scale. So we'll just and sometimes on Psychology Today, they'll even have the therapists on their profile. They'll have like the sliding scale of like the cheapest, what they would take versus like the highest. So let's just say you have 175 on the high end to like $60 on the low end. So you kind of either go in between that, or you just like be like, hey, like I can give you 60, or I can't give you 60 because I'm not working right now. And then it's just like sometimes a therapist would just be like, okay, that's fine. We just do pro bono.
Would that scale have anything to do with the therapist's experience? Because if you're a newer therapist, like what would make somebody want to charge 60 versus 200? You know what I mean?
You said what would make
a therapist? Why would a therapist charge a client $60 and not charge them $175 per the scale that you use? Is it because you got a veteran therapist, or is it somebody who doesn't have as much experience in the business.
That's important because a lot of the times, like some people who are like inexperienced, right? They're just gonna take the low end for a little bit, right? I'm just talking from experience or what I've seen from other people as well, right? So they'll just like say, okay, you can pay me 60, and then like let's just say they put a couple years in the game, and you build up their credibility, get more certifications, and then they're going like, okay, well, I've been doing therapy for like 10, 15 years, so now I'm going to ask a higher price. Sometimes like, but even those people who want to lock themselves in for a certain price, they will also take in people who are going to pay a little bit lower than that. But it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, like you was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, it really just depends. Because, I mean, when you have a sliding scale, it's just like we can go, just go back and forth on what you can pay, what you're able to pay versus, it's really like, because at the end of the day, it is a business. So it's just like, we do have to accept some kind of payment in order to stay open to help people, right? So whatever you and your therapist agree on as far as a price per session, right? That's what you guys would agree on. Some therapists are more open to going a little low, and some therapists aren't.
Right.
So it's just like, if you want to, what you could afford is what you could afford.
So just because somebody charges $60, that doesn't mean that they're a bad therapist, right?
No.
That just means they're trying to build their clientele and their bio so they can grow. All right, y'all. So that's $60 that you spend at the bar, that you spend in the mall. You can go out there and get some real mental therapy. You can go out there and get some real mental help for yourself. Some really good, strong, and foundational information that can make you much happier, not only for yourself, but whoever else you're loving in your life. It could be your spouse, it could be your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your children, any other family member or friend, any co-worker, you know what I mean? Sometimes working in these different places, and I'll have some information about that as well as we move forward, because there's a lot of toxic jobs out there that we sign up for just to get the check. You know what I mean? So we'll save that for another discussion. But I think today was great, man. It was a great introduction to what to expect at therapy. And I really appreciate you coming on to the show, Eli.
Yeah, appreciate being here.
And I want to have you back. So today was just an introduction to what therapy is and what we should expect as, people that don't normally go to therapy. But I'm going to have him back, and he's going to dive into other things, you know what I mean?
Yes, we can.
So we can enlighten everybody on, what we can do and what we should do when we're hurting inside, all right? Because we like to cover that up. So it's been another beautiful Toxic Tuesday. Please, y'all, if you like the information that I or Eli has shared tonight, please subscribe to the channel, like it, share it, ask questions in the comments. And speaking of, how would somebody be able to contact you, and do you do anything virtually? Or would you be open to doing anything virtually, or is it just in session?
I do things virtually. If anyone wants to contact me, my email is eirving@satshealing.com. You can always check me out on my blog as well, called therapyandlitfilms.com, and then I also have a podcast on Spotify called Watch This with Eli on Spotify. But that's what generally. And on my Instagram, Eli Nels, N as in nickel, ELS90 on Instagram, on the IG. If you want to hit me up, that's fine too.
I'll put all those contacts on the screen for them to make sure that they can lock in and get in contact with you and follow and support another young brother out here trying to make a big change for people, because we all need some help.
Yes, sir.
And I'm happy to have you on the show, like I said, man.
Happy to be here.
All right, y'all. I'm going to catch y'all next Toxic Tuesday. And it's going to be another great show. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. And y'all stay strong out there. We got this. That's love.
Peace.
And as we sign out tonight, I just want y'all to know that I do this for you. This platform that I'm creating, this platform and momentum that I have here, is to help somebody. Oftentimes, I will never know who I'm helping, and that's all right. I'm fine with that. I still feel fulfilled. I still feel like I'm doing my part. So if you really feel like you need to talk to somebody, you can call 1-800-273-TALK. That's 8255. That's the suicide hotline. That's somebody on the other end that should be there and trained to help you get through whatever hump in the road that you just came across. If you ever want to take it a little further and reach out to me, you can reach out to me on any of my social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the King Omar Sharif. Inbox me. I would love to talk to somebody. I would love to help somebody. And we could take it from there. All right? You're not by yourself. You're not the only one having these thoughts. We're stronger together. Believe that. That's love, y'all.